we're coming to you from the incredible FUN Aerospace Expo right here in Lakeland, one of the largest aviation events in the nation and one of Polk County's proudest annual traditions.
Explorando Polk con Marta y Teresa.
Today's show is especially meaningful because we have the honor of speaking with a man who goes beyond aviation, a man whose courage, sacrifice, and love for freedom have inspired people around the world.
Para mí, como cubana, este momento es profundamente emocional. Nuestro invitado, Orestes Lorenzo, no es solamente un piloto extraordinario, es un símbolo de valentía, libertad y amor por la familia.
Accompanying the real hero in this story, that is my wife sitting there behind me, and having this unique opportunity of sharing my life with the strongest person I ever known, and lovely like she is, Vicky, she's the core of this story.
She is, because in 1991, Orestes Lorenzo risked his life escaping Cuba, defecting as a pilot, as a mayor of the Air Force in a MiG-23 towards the United States looking for freedom. And later, he came back doing something totally impossible to rescue his family, his wife and children in a little plane. You and I grew up around the same time under the communist regime. And you were so brave to one day say, I am leaving, I am in the Air Force, and I had the opportunity to take this plane, this jet fighter plane, escape. But not only that, you came back. You came back to Cuba to rescue your family.
Take us back to that moment in 1991. What was going through your mind as you flew that MiG towards freedom, knowing one mistake could take your life?
I was born in a communist country, raised in a communist family. I was indoctrinated from elementary school to believe in the revolution, in Fidel Castro, in repeating, I am a pioneer, I be like Che Guevara. And so that's the way I grew up in the schools. And my passion was always to fly, especially to fly fighter jets. So I applied to become a fighter pilot in the Air Force, was accepted, trained in Russia for 3 years to become a pilot, and later came again for a second training as a commanding officer. So I returned to Cuba after experiencing in Russia the political change that happened in 1999. So I witnessed that. I witnessed the fall of the Berlin Wall, the execution of Ceausescu in Romania, how the people raised against tyranny. And it was an opening in the media where for the first time I had the opportunity to take a look at the Western democracies, how they work. So it was a window of information that I never had before, and discovering also, for example, that in Cuba were actually political prisoners, something that had always been denied by the Cuban government. So seeing all this made me to look into myself. I am a military, and I was a major in the Cuban Air Force, a second in command of the Santa Clara Air Base. I couldn't accept being a tool of a government that suppressed the basic human rights.
So when you decided that you were not going to live in this type of atmosphere, what made you say, I'm going to get in this plane and I am going to flee, I'm going to defect?
Number one, beyond politics, being a father. I was raised in a way I told you, indoctrinated all the time in school, screaming, I be communist, I be like Che Guevara, hating the United States, believing in the constant threat of invasion by the United States, and we have to fight the Americans, all that thing, that is just lies. And running to the shelter in practice is because they're bombing tomorrow, for example. Being 11 years old, I started practicing with a 22, target shooting. in training, for the future. And I couldn't stand seeing my children go through that, number one. And then understanding all the lies, all the fact that you have no control in your destiny, on your life. Everything is dictated by the government. Who are you going to be? Where are you going to go? What are you going to study? So it's 100% controlling you. I wanted my children to be themselves, to have a word on their future. That was number one.
So you decided to...
And I decided that I'd rather die than I'd rather live under those conditions, because for me, freedom is the oxygen I breathe. I either be free or it doesn't worth living. So I decided to take all the risk. I talked to Vicky. Now, many people say, well, why didn't you bomb Castro or confront the government? A single human being won't make a change. And besides, my family is going to pay the price. A country is ready to achieve its freedom when it's ready, when you know the majority is ready to go. That wasn't the case in 1991. So the only option, and she suggested me to leave the country. To escape.
If I say, Señor Orestes, I've heard of people leaving Cuba and in dangerous situations. And I know 1991, your headlines of what you did was unbelievable. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody taking such a dangerous trip back to Cuba to rescue the family. I think your experience and what you did, your actions are very, very unique.
It's a matter of opportunity. Many people talk about courage, and I think they don't understand that courage actually doesn't exist as such as being daring. Courage, if comes from love. Something you love so much, they are willing to die for that. A lot of emphasis is made on my flight back for my family to Cuba. That took about a little bit over an hour to complete, back and forth.
But 1 hour to go to Cuba and come back?
47, 48 minutes down there, about a minute on the ground, and the same time back.
So you had a marathon, right?
Marathon key, yes.
Yeah.
But the real act of courage is not the flight himself. It's my wife in Cuba. Just imagine I left, and for 21 months, she has to face, the harassment, the constant, surveillance, the oppression of the government. They really wanted to arrest them, but they couldn't, because they didn't have an excuse. They were sending spies at home with political proposals, inviting her to do things that were illegal, and she has to stand against all that.
That's what I was thinking about. You left your wife,
yes,
kids, and not knowing what they were going to do to them while you were over here.
Well,
I call that devotion, love, and everything else you want to call it.
Well, the real courage is in Vicky, And she just stand in front of them and said, "Hey, I'm not a politician. I'm not a dissident. I'm just a mother. I am a wife. All I want is to get together with my husband." That was her stand. And they could fight against that. There's a lot of moral stand on that.
Amazing.
It's a lot of strength in that.
I want to know, actually I know, but I want the public to know how you got the message to Vicky to wear those orange shirts and meet you at a road.
As you can guess, this is not something you can do entirely alone. So I have a lot of help. Number one, I needed the money to buy the airplane. That was provided by a Cuban-American lady. She, very dear and good friend, Elena Diaz-Person. She passed in 2000. But she donated the $30,000 needed to buy the airplane.
And this is a little bitty airplane. You flew in a jet, but now you're coming back in a little bitty airplane.
There is one here at the entrance of Sun & Fun, just by the museum. There is a Cessna 310 of that time, twin engine, very old airplane, horrible avionics, nothing like GPS or anything like that.
So how do you do it so you wouldn't be detected?
Well, that's one part. The other part is how I get the message to my wife. She asked.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And during my 21 months here, campaigning, meeting with the human rights organization, testifying in the U.S. Congress. I met two human rights advocates from Mexico, two ladies, Virginia Gonzalez and Azul Landeros. And I met them in Washington in one of those trips that they made to testify in the Congress about human rights in Mexico. And she told me that in a month she will be going to Cuba, visiting, because there was some sort of a summit in Cuba for psychologists and so on, and they work in the mental health area. And they just learned about our plight, our story, and they wanted to help. So they made the first trip. They met Vicky. They brought Vicky medication, vitamins, basic things that I sent, and we established that contact. So when I got the airplane and everything ready, I called them in Mexico. I met with them in Monterrey, and I asked them to carry a message to Vicky. And the message was a short note like this, printed as small as possible font. In one side was, I'm gonna be landing for you and the kids 50 minutes after sunset, all I said, because we needed dark to escape, but a little bit of light to land. And dark to escape from the mix, because those could get us, right? And the spot is this spot, Playita del Mamey, the road that goes right by the beach. And so the only thing I didn't say was the date. And then on the back side, I wrote a view of the Cessna 310 with the props, and I said, never run toward the airplane from the front. Come from the side or from the back because of the prop, and hold the kids in your hands. So the only thing we didn't know was the date. We know the time, but not the date. So the day I call you on the phone, and I tell you that if I ask you, how is my father? And that was the code, right? How is I would never ask you about my father again. But the day I do, that means, did you get the message? Then your response will be, and then I will ask, you say yes, right, you got the message. Then my question will be, how is my dad doing? And then you say, it's not doing good. That means, this is crazy, I'm not doing it. You say, no, he's doing okay. That means, I got it, let's do it.
She was very courageous too.
Oh, she was everything. She was it all. And then I will ask, during that phone conversation, or whenever I be ready, I will tell you that I'm sending you some money with friends to buy some toys for the kids. And that means tomorrow, starting midnight tonight,
That's
right?
a lot of codes that you have.
Yeah. Tomorrow is the day.
Yeah.
No, but because we know she has been tapped, you know.
Yeah.
So they knew every single word we talked to each other on the phone. So it has to be something that she understood, but the people listening to, they would never know what we were talking about. It just was a very common conversation, you know. And that was the meaning. So, and
you arrived in close to Varadero Beach.
Yeah, well, you asked me how did I avoid the radars. Just by flying low. It's a normal practice in the military. The lower you fly, because of the Earth curvature, you know, the radar can't see you that farther away, because you hide yourself behind the horizon. What happened is that they still are going to see you, but they are going to see you when you are already too close. And then if you are flying fast, they don't have time enough to react and shoot you down.
So,
that was the basic tactic.
You rescue your wife and kids?
Yes.
How many kids?
Two.
Two of them, boys?
11 and 6.
Boys?
Two boys.
That was very, very courageous. You are a true hero for the Cuban community.
Yeah, he was sitting there in the back.
She is.
Vicky.
And we admire her too. The whole family is a true honor to be here with you.
She's a little bit camera shy, but Vicky, please.
Señora Vicky, es encantada de conocerla y la historia que su esposo nos está diciendo es bella. Yo quiero saber cómo, en pocas palabras, cómo te sientes hoy estar aquí y poder platicar con nosotros sobre lo que pasó.
Bueno, me siento más que feliz. Número uno, porque llevamos 50 años juntos.
¡Oh! ¡Felicidades!
¡Felicidades! Y mi esposo también.
Ajá, qué bien, felicidades. Y estar aquí disfrutando todo, con la familia creciendo y todo, es maravilloso.
6 nietos.
6 nietos. Sí, sí,
Y
sí.
todo porque tuvo la valentía de ir a rescatar a su familia. Qué linda historia.
Sí.
Y Vicky, ¿cómo te sentiste cuando viste que llegó ese avión y que venía a rescatar a la familia? Y qué miedo, ¿no? El corazón lo has de haber tenido.
No tenía miedo.
No.
No tenía miedo. Yo estaba convencida de que se iba a lograr. Yo confiaba en él y en el Dios también,
En Dios
que nos
también.
iba a ayudar a poder salir de allá.
Sí.
Él me lo prometió y más le vale que lo hiciera.
That's a beautiful story. She's saying that he promised that he was going to come back to her. And he did. She said
Es
she
una
was not
historia de
afraid.
amor.
I would be afraid, I'll tell you that
No,
much.
hubiera estado
I
con el
would be-
corazón en la
yeah.
boca. Sí. Y Oreste, ¿qué consejo le daría a usted a los pilotos jóvenes de hoy en día que están quizás en el servicio militar aquí o allá? ¿Qué consejo le daría usted a los pilotos de hoy en día?
Sé tú mismo. A veces las personas, especialmente cuando somos jóvenes, caemos prisioneros de sí mismos y del medio que nos rodea, las opiniones de otras personas, que no significa ignorar las opiniones y los consejos de los demás, pero sí perseguir tu sueño con
Be
determinación.
yourself. Follow your own
Y,
dreams.
yeah, y be yourself. No hay cosa más hermosa en el mundo que la transparencia.
The most beautiful
Poderle
thing
mirar
in
a
the
alguien
world
a
is
los ojos
transparency.
Y poder expresarte con la
To look at
tranquilidad de que
someone in
eres.
the eyes
Es un acto de honestidad
and express yourself,
individual hacia sí mismo.
being yourself.
Y el objetivo más importante en la vida
And the main objective in life
no es volar o operar o
is
construir,
not to fly
no,
or to build,
es ser feliz
is to be happy.
y luchar por tu felicidad. Si lo que
and
te ayuda a
fight
llegar allá
for
es
your
volar,
happiness.
vuela y vuela de corazón, ámalo.
If you have to fly to be happy, fly with your heart. Do it.
Nunca, en el caso de los pilotos, nunca lo veas como un trabajo.
If you're going to be a pilot, do not see it as work.
Es una pasión, es
It's
amor.
a passion.
I love that advice. Be yourself. For not
Yeah.
only for young people, Teresa, but I think that's applicable to everybody. Just be yourself
Yeah.
and follow your passion. That's really good.
And here we are with someone who flew for freedom, celebrating 165 years of Polk County, but 250 years of a country that is where people come to be free. And you're a perfect
Yes.
example.
And I still fly. I still fly.
And you still fly.
I fly an L-39 Albatros. That's a warbird and an epic. But one note, if I can make it, is I'm Cuban by birth, but I am an American. I'm a very proud American.
And so am I.
And, I'm proud of my culture, or my roots, my grandparents, my music, my arroz con frijoles.
Y puerco
But-
frito.
Yeah, but first and foremost, I am an American by all means. And so I only have one flag, one country, and this is my fatherland. And because some people say, well, Cuban American, I'm an American. And I feel like such 100%, though born in Cuba. It's that simple. Never,
said.
never in my life I would put any interest of another country, like including Cuba, before the U.S. interest.
Well
Because
said. Well said.
This is my country. This is my fatherland.
That's why we celebrate freedom in the United States, and that's why our
Right.
250th anniversary is coming up of freedom.
And
This is not a perfect country, but boy, it's a really good one, isn't it?
Good
Absolutely.
country.
And that doesn't mean that I don't care about Cuba.
Oh,
I definitely
absolutely.
care a lot about Cuba, and I'm willing to help Cuba achieve its
Absolutely.
freedom. I want for every Cuban in the country to be able to exercise his basic human rights, to start businesses, to have a voice in their destiny, And I'm willing to help with all my
And I think
strength,
it's coming.
my passion.
I believe it's coming.
I think so. I think so. We're getting closer, definitely.
Señor Orestes, many people know the headlines of your history, but it takes us back to the moment in 1991 when you were what was going through your mind when you got on the plane that flew the MiG plane, if I'm not mistaken, that's what it's called, and you flew towards freedom, knowing one mistake could cost you your life. How did you feel at that moment?
Well, I was very conscious of that it was either I make it or not. I could be shot down arriving in the United States. I could be killed. I could be arrested. I could be returned back to Cuba. I didn't know. I just didn't know. That was going through my mind. Also, my worries about my family, what is going to be with them starting this moment, going forward. My parents, my friends, what they will think. They think I betrayed them, probably, even though I know I'm right.
Yeah.
So it was painful. But more importantly, is what was going through my heart. And, it's hard to explain how, when people say, well, God talked to me, I felt it. I felt it, not in words. It's something here in your chest that grows. And I didn't know how it's going to be going forward. But something told me, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And you're going to be with your family. You're going to be together. And that was here. I felt that. And that's the strength that kept me going forward.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Orestes, como cubana, yo siempre he oído de su gran hazaña, de su valentía, de su deseo de libertad para su familia y el rescate de su familia. Esto es algo que ha sido, ha estado en películas, en libros, etc. Dígame, ¿qué fue lo que le hizo así decir ese día, yo me voy a montar en este MiG-23 y me voy de Cuba, ya volveré por mi familia?
Bueno, no es una decisión que se toma de manera relámpago, es todo un proceso, porque yo era un comunista ortodoxo, yo fui educado y adoctrinado para eso, y creí en el comunismo, entonces no es una pared que se derrumba de un golpe, es algo que va cayendo poco a poco, con evidencias que van como piedrecitas acumulándose hasta que el peso hace que la verdad completa te traiga la realidad. Y fue lo que pasó en el proceso de estar en la Unión Soviética durante la perestroika y obtener información que no sabía antes de la represión en Cuba, de los presos políticos. Porque una cosa que mucha gente no entiende, el ejército y los órganos represivos de Cuba no tienen nada en común. Eso es una cuestión del Ministerio del Interior, la policía, la seguridad del Estado. El ejército era el ejército, y especialmente la Fuerza Aérea era para la guerra. Y siempre creíamos lo que decía Fidel Castro, que en Cuba no había presos políticos, hasta que descubrimos que sí los había. Y no solo eso, que se les tortura en las prisiones, y que había muchos. Y entonces, esa verdad llegó a mí, y también el conocimiento de cómo funciona la democracia. Fue una ventana al mundo, una ventana de luz, digamos, y de ser un comunista ortodoxo pasé a un agnóstico, a una persona que se sintió traicionado y a una persona, cuando eres un comunista agnóstico, y la verdad, la evidencia, cuando no eres estúpido, vamos a decirlo en esos términos porque es la realidad, y eres capaz de pensar, razonar y observar la evidencia, te transformas de una manera que te conviertes en el anticomunista más acérrimo que hay. Es lo opuesto, porque te sientes traicionado y que te robaron tu vida. A mí me robaron mi infancia, me robaron mi juventud, me robaron mis ilusiones. Yo no tuve infancia nunca. No, yo era un niño que nunca pude pensar como un niño. Desde niño era la guerra, el imperialismo y comunismo, ¿me entiendes? Las incontables miles de horas en reuniones del partido comiendo basura, hablando porquerías, y como en realidad no hay manera de describirlo de otra manera en español. Todas las estupideces, escuchando los discursos absurdos del comandante en jefe. Todo eso te lacera el alma de una manera porque te robaron tu tiempo, te robaron tu vida, eso no hay manera de recuperarlo. Y entonces desprecias generalmente el sistema.
¿Y usted planeó o se montó así?
No, yo planeé, yo soy militar de formación, yo no iba a improvisar nada. Lo más importante era que Vicky estuviera on board, o sea, que estuviera lista conmigo. Y para mí fue el hecho de irme era fácil. Yo era el segundo jefe de la base de aérea de Santa Clara. Tenía 4 escuadrones de MiG bajo mi mando, cada uno con 14 aviones. Un día de vuelo normal en un MiG-23 salí a hacer una prueba, un vuelo de práctica, y en ese mismo vuelo me vine a Estados Unidos.
So, Oreste, many people, I've heard many stories of people that are leave Cuba and they come to the United States to live. And you were successful in doing that, as you're explaining to us right now. What I don't understand or can't comprehend is that you left the safety to go back to Cuba to rescue your family, knowing the danger that it had for you and for your family. What motivated you?
There is no safety for me without my family. There is no safety, there is no life, there is no love, there is no happiness, there is nothing without them. So I was here in body, but I was in Cuba with them in soul. So, and I was suffering, every bit of suffering they had, I was feeling in here too. So it's either with them or nothing. So I had no choice, I had to go back for them. And that was the compromise I made with Vicky, because the day before I left, we were discussing it, and I told her, because I knew how the government is, I knew they're going to try to trap you somehow. So if they don't let you go by legal means, I will be back for you. I don't know how, in a boat, in a plane, swimming, whatever, but I'll be back for you. Only me. Anyone that shows up at your door saying that I sent him for you is a lie. Don't believe.
That's good.
Don't believe it. It's a trap. So she trusted me, I trusted her. That was never a question if I will do it, or a question that if she will be there ready for me. It never crossed our mind. That's something we knew since the day we met each other. You know, there is some sort of connection. Two human beings become one. You know, it's. So
you really never had a choice.
We didn't have a choice.
You
I had to go back.
You knew in your heart what you needed to do, and you were going to do it.
Even psychologically, you know, when I was flying to Cuba, there was a good chance that, you know, just imagine that says and landing on a road, a flat tire, you get a flat tire, or the airplane breaks, so something happens, you can't depart, and you get arrested. And even that, in that event, for me, it was a victory, you know, because the thing that I will never accept was me staying in the United States and accepting my life, my wife, my children to stay in Cuba forever. And the tyranny. That wouldn't happen.
Well, we want to thank you for being here today and for sharing your story with us. It's a story that reaches right into the heart of people. So we thank you very much. And we're glad that you did what you did, because you're an example to a lot of other people on how to be courageous, strong, and moved by passion and doing the right thing. So thank you, Señor Orestes,
thank you for
your time.
For having us. Absolutely.
Entrevistarle ha sido un verdadero honor, fundamentalmente personal, ya que también comparto las raíces cubanas, porque su historia no solo es de un hombre que se escapó de Cuba, es la de un padre, la de un esposo que desafió la dictadura por el amor a su familia, por el derecho a vivir en libertad. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí.
Gracias a ustedes por tenernos, y esta parte que es en español, por si algunos cubanos nos están mirando. La gente siempre pregunta, pero ¿cómo vamos a tumbar la dictadura? No hay que sacar a la... Primero, no tienen las armas, pero no necesitas las armas para tumbarlos. Si quieres tumbar la dictadura, practica la decencia todos los días. Ama a tu esposa, ama a tus hijos, ama a tus amigos. ¿Qué significa? No los traiciones nunca. No informes, no vigiles, no delates. Compórtate con decencia. No vayas a los actos de repudio, no vayas a las manifestaciones de apoyo al gobierno, porque no seas hipócrita, sé tú mismo, sé honesto con tu vida. No tienes que ser beligerante, solamente tienes que ser consecuente.
Teresa, I don't know about you, but what a delightful interview that we've had with Mr. Orestes Lorenzo. The man is full of wisdom. He has great things to tell us and to motivate us and inspire us. I've just been totally amazed by this and motivated. Thank you so much.
You call me up because I'm going to tell my wife now that I am full of wisdom.
Yes, you are. Today, Orestes Lorenzo reminded us that sometimes aviation also changes history.
Thank you for joining us on
Explorando Polk.
Until next time, keep exploring,
keep learning,
and keep celebrating the incredible stories that shape our community.
And celebrating freedom.
Hasta pronto.
Adiós. Explorando Polk con Marta y Teresa.
Well, here we are, Teresa. We're still in sun and fun, having a great time talking to people and just enjoying the event. This is great. But we have a special guest. You want to introduce her, Teresa?
Yes, we have here Sonia Carrillo, the Visit Central Florida, and visiting people are doing that. How many people do you think we have here at Sun and Fun?
I think we have quite a few people. I think every year our numbers keep growing. So I would say thousands and thousands of guests every year.
Mm-hmm. And so what's your role here? I mean, I see Central Florida visit all around, but tell us what's your role?
Yeah, so kind of what I do is give insight of things to do in the area. So we try to make sure guests are having fun, and what we do is we want them to stay longer. And we say play harder, but playing harder is basically we want to provide them with as much information as possible so they could take advantage of our insight, like an insider tip, so they can go out there and have that fun.
So, Sonia, lo dijiste en inglés.
Mm-hmm.
Ahora lo quiero que lo diga en español para nuestra audiencia que habla español.
Por supuesto. So, nosotros estamos aquí para ayudar a nuestros visitantes, para que saquen provecho. Nosotros queremos guiar, pero ayudar siempre con cualquier necesidad que ellos necesitan. Entonces, estamos aquí para servirles.
¿Y cuántos lugares hay? Porque hay muchos, pero vamos a decirle a la gente, ¿cuántos lugares podemos ir a visitar aquí en Polk County?
El condado de Polk tiene más de 17 ciudades compuesto, ¿verdad? Entonces tenemos una área muy grande que podemos cubrir, pero nosotros usamos como estas herramientas, que es una revista, ¿verdad? Y te da información sobre las atracciones, como uno de los populares es el parque temático de Legoland, ¿verdad? Y ese parque muchos vienen a visitar, entonces tienen juegos, tienen espectáculos, entonces no solamente tienen los parques temáticos de Legoland, pero tiene el parque temático de Peppa Pig también. Entonces tiene el parque de agua también, y tienen también el acuario de Sea Life que apenas entró. Entonces tenemos muchos visitantes fuera del estado que están llegando con nosotros.
Porque el asunto es atraer personas que vienen de otros lugares para que nos dejen su dinero aquí en hoteles, en restaurantes, para mejorar nuestra economía.
Por supuesto, y para eso estamos nosotros, para servir y ayudar en cualquier necesidad que ellos necesitan. Y sí, porque usamos esas herramientas, ¿verdad? Porque en veces, si no nos acordamos de todo, esta revista nos ayuda bastante.
So I'm going to bring you back to Sun and Fun, because that's why we're here now. How do we find you? I mean, of course I found you. How do people find you? Where are you?
We're basically on social media, so we want people to find us on social media because we have a lot of information to give. And we have a welcome center up in Davenport off of 27. We love to share insight of finding those attractions and finding whatever needs the guests are looking for. We want to provide that information to them. So we're at satellite booths all over. So we're at the airport, we're at Legoland, we're at First Friday events downtown here in Lakeland, and we're here at Sun and Fun. So we try to be everywhere, but we also have our literature in different locations too. So in certain rental car areas, at the airport, at hotels, you can find our literature, because we want to make sure everyone is taking full advantage of their stay here, and we want them to just keep exploring, because when they go home, we want them to remember us. And the way to do that, is giving them a wonderful, wonderful vacation stay here.
And she said the key word.
Explorando, que es lo que estamos haciendo nosotros.
So you have different stations here in Sun and Fun.
Yes, we
Okay.
do. And we can't be everywhere, but we really try to be. And we definitely want everyone to follow us on social media, because I feel like everybody's moving towards that, you know, where people just try to find like things to do and they can't meet us at the Welcome Center. So being like on Facebook, on Instagram, you know, it's like I feel like that's another alternative to get to our guests, because the more information they have, the more they're going to explore, and the more tips and inside tips that we can give them, it's like it benefits them, and we want them to stay longer.
Y Marta, tú y yo hemos ido a Visit Central Florida buscando dónde ir a explorar. We have looked at the site so that we know what places to go and explore.
Yeah, you provide a wonderful service for our tourists and for the citizens here, because I'll tell you what, Explorando Polk is large, very large. So we need to know what other cities offer that we can go to. So I just commend all of you for doing such a wonderful job in providing that information
Yeah,
to
we
people.
We definitely love being here. I know my coworkers and I, we love being part of that, and we love to have happy guests. That's our main goal, happy guests.
So Sonia, is there anything else that you want to share with us about Visit Central Florida?
Yes, so we have this new savings pass that we'd like to share.
Hey,
So
We know about that.
Nosotros
that's for
usamos
sure.
este pase para ir a safari,
El
wilderness.
safari, sí.
Yes.
So here you can find some discounts, because we want you to stay longer and play harder, right? So all you'd have to do is scan that QR code, and with that QR code, it's gonna give you more of a discount to other attractions in the area, and restaurants too, and hotel stays. So we're gonna definitely request that everyone look into that, because we want you to save some money.
What is it called again?
It is called the Savings Pass.
Savings
The
Pass. Ya tú sabes
Sunshine
que
Savings Pass. Good.
solo se escanea la parte de atrás y nos va a dar descuento en restaurantes, en hoteles, en atracciones. Es maravilloso.
Pues,
Por supuesto.
muchas gracias, Sonia.
Un placer, con mucho gusto,
You're a
gracias.
wealth of information coming from you, so thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Tere, here we are in Sun and Fun. So, what are we going to do now?
Let's explore. And we will see you next time, la próxima vez, en
Explorando Polk. Let's explore, because nosotros somos
I'm not into it.
Explorando
I have
Polk.
to do it again because I wasn't into it.
Cuando nos cambiamos de ropa y vamos a pasear por ahí.
Explorar. Esto no sirve. Okay, let's
You
go.
don't want to keep messing it up. It is simple.
De pequeña he oído de su historia, bueno, no de pequeña, porque en el 91 yo estaba bien grande. Hey, let's change that. Cut that.
Me está diciendo viejo a mí, porque como ella es mucho más joven, dice eso.
Y que soy más vieja.
Dice viejo a mí.
Okay. And we will see you next time, la próxima vez en
Explorando Polk.